The Red Jacket Boys. The cafe hummed with the gentle sounds of evening. Coffee machines hissed. Porcelain cups clinked against saucers. Outside the tall windows, the city lights began to flicker on, casting soft golden reflections across the polished tables. Sarah Mitchell sat alone at a corner table, her hands wrapped around a cooling cup of tea. She glanced at her phone for the 20th time. 7:35. It was 35 minutes late. Her friend Emma had set this up. His name is Michael, Emma had said with that excited tone that made Sarah both hopeful and nervous. He's kind. It's genuine. And Sarah, he's been through something real. He gets it. Sarah understood what Emma meant. Sarah had been through something real too. 2 years ago, her husband had passed away suddenly. A heart attack at 34. No warning. No goodbye. Used can. For 2 years, she had focused on rebuilding her life. Slowly. Carefully. She had learned to sleep in an empty bed. She had learned to cook for one. She had learned to stop setting 2 places at the table out of habit. Emma had been patient. But last month, she had sat Sarah down with that determined look in her eyes. You're ready, Emma had said. I know you think you're not. But you are. And I know someone who might understand. So Sarah had agreed. One latte. Used coffee. Nothing serious. Now, sitting in the cafe with the tea going cold, Sarah felt foolish. She checked her phone again. No messages. No calls. Nothing. She had worn her nicest sweater. The soft beige one that made her feel comfortable and confident at the same time. She had even put on the pearl earrings her mother had given her. All for a man who hadn't bothered to show up. Sarah felt the familiar ache in her chest. Not heartbreak. Not jet. Just disappointment. And something worse. The creeping thought that maybe this was the universe telling her something. Maybe she wasn't ready. Maybe she would never be ready. She reached for her purse, deciding to leave with what little dignity she had left. Excuse me? Sarah looked up. 2 small boys stood beside her table. They were identical twins, maybe 6 years old, with bright red jackets and matching serious expressions. Behind them, through the cafe windows, Sarah could see the entrance to the building. The boys must have just come in. Yes. Sarah said, managing a gentle smile despite her disappointment. The first boy stepped forward. His name tag said Jacob in careful handwriting. Are you Sarah? Sarah blinked. I am. How did you know? The second boy, whose tag read Lucas, spoke up. Dad showed us your picture. He said you'd be wearing a beige sweater and would be sitting alone. Sarah's heart skipped. Your dad? Is Michael? Both boys nodded solemnly. Jacob reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a slightly crumpled envelope. He told us to give you this. And to tell you he's sorry. Sarah took the envelope with trembling fingers. The boys watched her with wide, patient eyes. She opened it carefully and pulled out a handwritten note. Asterisk, dear Sarah. Asterisco, I am so sorry. I'm writing this in the emergency room. About an hour ago, my mother had a fall. She's going to be okay, but she broke her hip and she's frightened and alone. I'm the only family she has nearby, and I couldn't leave her, asterisco. Asterisco, I tried to call you, but I realized Emma never gave me your number, only a description and the meeting place. He thought about sending the boys home with my neighbor, but then Jacob suggested something that made me realize I raised them right, asterisco. Asterisco, they said, let us go tell her. So she doesn't think you forgot. They insisted. They're protective of people's feelings, even strangers. It's one of the things I'm most proud of, asterisco. Asterisk, Sarah, I know we haven't met. But Emma told me about you. She told me about your loss. About your strength. About how you're learning to open your heart again, slowly and carefully, asterisco. I'm learning too. My wife passed 3 years ago cancer. It was long and it was hard, and these two boys saw more than children should ever have to see. But they came through it with kindness still intact. That's how I know their mother's love is still with them, asterisco. Asterisco I understand if you want to walk away from this. A man who sends his children to deliver a message on a first date that never happened. It's not exactly promising, asterisco. Asterisk but if you're willing, I'm at Memorial Hospital, room 412. My mother would actually love the company. Sis already heard about you. She told me I was an idiot for even considering sending the boys, but she also said, if that woman comes here, she's a keeper. Asterisco. Asterisco no pressure. You mean that? But the boys insisted on wearing their matching red jackets because they wanted you to know they took this seriously. That's how they show respect for important things, asterisco. Asterisco either way, I'm sorry for tonight. Asterisco Michael. Sarah read the letter twice. Then she looked at the two boys, who were still standing patiently, waiting. Their red jackets were carefully zipped. Their shoes were neatly tied. They had prepared for this mission. Your dad sent you all the way here? Sarah asked softly. Just to make sure I knew what happened. Lucas nodded. He said leaving someone waiting without knowing why is one of the meanest things you can do. Even if it's an accident. Jacob added, and we wanted to meet you anyway. That said you might be important. Sarah felt her eyes sting with unexpected tears. Not sad tears. Something else. Something that felt like hope wrapped in warmth. She thought about her husband. About the kind of man he had been. About the kind of man who would raise children to care about a stranger's feelings. About the kind of man who would write that letter from an emergency room while his mother lay injured. Is your grandmother really okay? Sarah asked. The doctor said she'll be okay, Jacob confirmed. But she has to stay overnight. Maybe longer. Sarah stood up, gathering her purse and her coat. Well then, we'd better go see her. Room 412, right? Both boys broke into wide smiles. Lucas reached for her hand naturally, as if they'd known each other for years. Dad's going to be really happy. He was worried you'd be mad, Jacob said, taking her other hand. As they walked out of the cafe together, a woman and two small boys in matching red jackets, Sarah felt something shift inside her chest. The weight she'd been carrying, the fear that had kept her frozen, seemed somehow lighter. This wasn't the evening she had planned. But maybe that was the point. Life didn't follow plans. Arts didn't heal on schedules. And sometimes, the best beginnings came from unexpected endings. Dad picked you, Lucas said as they stepped into the cool evening air. Not anyone else. He told us that. He said Emma told him about lots of people, but when she talked about you, he knew. Knew what? Sarah asked. Jacob looked up at her with eyes too wise for 6 years old. That you understand what it means to lose someone and still be brave enough to say hello to someone new. Sarah squeezed both small hands gently. You know what? You think your dad might be right. And together, they walked toward the hospital, toward a grandmother who needed company, toward a man Sarah hadn't met yet but somehow already understood. Toward something that felt, against all odds, like a beginning.